This video is in response to the knee-jerk reactions I'm getting from 12-steppers on my overcoming addiction videos. First of all, let us reiterate that those of us who've undertaken this path accept the fact that addiction is not a disease. We accept the fact that once we overcome it, which is not that difficult to do, it just takes time and diligent effort, we no longer are addicts. That does not mean we would not return to the abusive, self-abusive behavior patterns that characterize addiction or addiction itself. However, returning to that does not mean we still have a disease. It means that we have familiar patterns that we might return to unless we do the necessary change work in order to overcome those patterns, erase them, and create aversions, if necessary, to resuming them. First of all, the main reason here is to go ahead and reiterate one more time that we don't have a hate or a disdain for the 12-step program as expressed in the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. Let us also say that over the years that I have known many individuals who I like, who are still my friends, whom I associate with on a regular basis, some of them on a sparing basis, and that I still cherish and love some of those associations. I will tell you that 95%, 90% of those people are not people which espouse the cultist philosophy, who are constantly reiterating and repeating slogans, who are steeped deeply in the brainwash of it all. These are people who live a good, rational life, who are clean by choice, clean by decision, and have taken the necessary actions to remain that way and to develop their lives beyond the addiction as a disease paradigm. Now, first of all, let's say what we got good out of NA. We got a place to go, we went to meetings, and that gave us a place to go where most people were staying clean. They also talked about strategies they had, practical living strategies that helped them do that. One of those is staying away from people who use. For me, that was particularly true. I had to stay away from people who used. Another strategy that was employed by these people is to change the lifestyle. In other words, change who we hang around with. That's the first one I mentioned. Stop doing the behaviors that lead to craving for drugs to get started. Now, this type of strategy is very important in overcoming all the other aspects of addiction, like sex addiction, like addiction to exercise, addiction to overeating, all those different behavioral patterns that we call addiction in a general category. Now, what's nice about this is once we develop a strategy and we don't participate in the thinking and behavior, we can start to get to the underlying beliefs, which give us this sense that we need to change the way we feel or numb the way we feel with something that's self-destructive. That, of course, will lead us to moderation in those behaviors like eating or sex or other behaviors, and to develop our own regimen of how we practice those behaviors. This is very helpful in living a good, productive, happy, logical, rational approach and a good, happy, productive life. It doesn't require a higher power. It doesn't require religiosity like you find in 12 steps. It doesn't require a God. It doesn't require religion. It doesn't require any of that. It's very simple, okay? Hanging around with the friends that I developed in NA kept me away from the friends that I had who were in addiction patterns or people who just simply abused drugs too much. Today, what that's helped me do is to look at my life rationally and say, hey, what did I really get out of taking drugs, especially alcohol? Okay. Really what I did was destroy myself with those drugs. I have no desire to use those drugs moderately today. I don't think that overcoming addiction involves being able to go out and use those chemicals again, for me. Other people are concerned with developing behaviors of moderation. That's fine. They can pursue that if they wish. For me, my attempts to do so were disastrous, and today I no longer have any desire to take anything to change the way I feel other than caffeine, okay, which I use moderately to these days. Okay, here's another thing too. There's a lot of things that are said that are very helpful, like, hey, if you want to use, talk to somebody. That helped a lot. Talking to people when I was going through emotional things, learning how to cope, developing coping skills was very important. And people gave me a lot of practical experience on doing that, which didn't involve praying, which didn't involve going to meetings and spouting off slogans. A lot of the behavior that helped me stop and stay stopped involved distraction, distracting myself with other activities. Then I learned how to distract myself with other activities in a non-addictive and non-compulsive, non-obsessive way. And as I have mastered these types of things, I've gotten better and better at having a good, moderated schedule, a regimen of daily life. And these are the things that I learned that were very helpful in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. Some of those things were found in the literature, which for the most part, when you redact all the spiritual nonsense, I challenge you, if you're interested, to go ahead and buy a basic text of NA, get a black pen or a marker which doesn't seep through to the next page, and redact everything out of the book that has to do with God and spirituality and slogans. You'll get yourself a very small document, just several paragraphs or a few sentences here and there, that will give you some good practical guidelines for overcoming addiction. People tend to, with their language, give addiction way too much power. They've turned it into almost like an outside entity that looms over them like some kind of demon or something of that nature. Well, in being a magician, what we learned is that the magician has a complete say-so in his universe, that he can control a lot of circumstances just by power of will. And this is my contention. The power of will is much more powerful than the power of addiction. And once we learn what causes the addiction behavior, the beliefs, the thinking, the pains of the past, so to speak, those kinds of things, some of these are imprint patterns learned in childhood. There's a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder stuff. This can all get overcome. This can all get erased and replaced with new healthy behavior, which doesn't involve 12 steps, which doesn't involve going to meetings where people are spewing out a bunch of slogans that really, for most people, are not helpful and are a big turnoff. Now, that approach is for most people, not for the people that choose to stay in the rooms, because what it really boils down to with them, some of them really believe that this is helping them, and some of them are really going there because they don't have a social life other than in that context. That was another thing I also learned, was in getting away from that, breaking the brainwash cycle, that I had to get friends outside of the NA fellowship. And that's been one of the most helpful strategies with me in my life. And then by that time, I'd overcome all the cravings. I'd overcome all the reasons that I thought using, by the way, cost-benefit analysis is really good for this, that using was a useful strategy in my life. It wasn't. It never has been. So much so that now if I have to take a pain pill because I have a minor surgery or some kind of toothache or something like that, I have no desire to take these pills afterwards. I don't like the way they make me feel. I really have overcome addiction, and it's not a big deal. And it can be not a big deal for anyone else who wants that. So if you're willing to pursue that type of path and you've been watching this video, contact me. You can contact me through the YouTube page here or through Facebook. I would appreciate that, being able to lend my experience to you as I have for many, many over the years. And also, you'll probably give me some great feedback after you start doing some things on your own to get better yourself. So anyway, that all being said, here's my response. You people who love NA or in NA and who think you need all that, great. Keep going. But we have started meetings that are free of all of that. We don't use the language. Most of us don't call ourselves addicts. We don't believe we have a disease called addiction. We just support each other. And that's the most important thing, is to give each other support in facing our problems, challenges, and opportunities in everyday living.